This Week in Connecticut with Dennis
Good
House.
morning and welcome to This Week in Connecticut. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dennis House. Election day is still 9 months away and primary season is well underway. The Connecticut primary, though, isn't until April. This past week was the big do-over primary in the state's largest city, Bridgeport. So what does 2024 hold for us politically? We spoke to the state GOP chairman, Ben Proto, about that on this program just 2 weeks ago. And today, we talk with the leader of the Democratic Party. And joining us now is the chairwoman of the Connecticut Democratic Party, Nancy DiNardo. Chairwoman DiNardo, good to see you here in the program.
Nice seeing you, Dennis. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, good to be here. So we had the Republican chairman on a couple of weeks ago, and let's begin with some of the things he said. And he said that he believes that George Logan is going to beat Jahana Hayes this year. What do you think about that? Obviously, you disagree.
Yes, obviously. I doubt that. I mean, George Logan has talked about the fact that he's supported by the Republican leadership in Congress. They're talking about being for abortion, and there's just, you know, he's just automatically rolling over for them. He's not, when he was in the state Senate, he didn't support any of the gun safety regulations. As I said, he's obviously against abortion, and it's just, I don't see that happening. I mean, it was a little close last time, but Jahana has done a great job. And I know the Republicans are looking at it because they think they could pick it up, but that's not going to happen.
I asked Chairman Proto why he's in this losing streak, why they've lost so many elections in a row, gubernatorial and Senate races and so forth. So I'm going to ask you, on the flip side, why do you think Democrats have been winning for so long in Connecticut? What's the secret?
Well, I wish I knew what the secret was, but I think it's primarily our candidates. And they're out there working hard, reaching out to the voters, getting their messages out, and I think that makes a difference. I mean, what the Democrats stand for in Connecticut and in the country is in such a contrast to the Republicans. I mean, you look at their last president and the guy who wants to run again. I mean, he is so negative and so hostile. I'm talking about Trump, but he doesn't care. Where you see Democrats do care, and we want to make a difference. Our Democrats that have served are in there to take care of their constituents, and you see that all the time.
As your candidates run against Republicans in the coming year, is it a litmus test for those Republicans whether they support Donald Trump?
I think it could make a difference for them. I mean, clearly, and that's what's going to hurt them. I mean, Connecticut doesn't support Donald Trump, and I think by them supporting Donald Trump, it does hurt them. But they're not going to change that.
Do you believe a Trump presidency is dangerous for Connecticut?
Oh, definitely, yes.
How so?
Well, like I said, he has said himself that he's out, if he wins again, he's out for revenge and retribution. I mean, and he believes that. Those are his words. And I just can't believe that that's how he functions. And people still support him when he says things like that. And I think he will, because Connecticut is such a blue state, that he would try to do something that would affect Connecticut.
I want to ask you a little bit about the Connecticut primary, because we're in April, and two smaller states, population-wise, Iowa and New Hampshire, have such a big say in who the nominees will be for the major parties historically. So how do we get Connecticut to matter more in the presidential process?
That is, as you know, now we've moved up from the end of April to the beginning of April, but
it's still late.
Yes, it is, but there's a whole process to be considered first, and I just don't see people picking Connecticut to be first. I would love it, but I just don't see that happening, or even earlier. I mean, by the end of April, it was basically, the primaries were basically over, so it wasn't exciting. At least at the beginning of April, I'm hoping that it's a little more exciting and engaging for people.
So how does that work? Do you have to work in conjunction with the Republican chairman and perhaps the parties to say, hey, listen, let's make a stink, let's make our primary earlier?
Yes, we would have to. Well, and I think Ben and I, you know, often work together on things like that. So we could look at it. I just don't see it happening.
I want to talk, I know it's early, but do you know, or what does your gut tell you about Governor Lamont perhaps running for a third term?
Well, he doesn't like to talk about that. I've been
No, he
told.
doesn't, so that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah. I think he could do it. I mean, the governor has done a phenomenal job. You know, I mean, the economy is going well. We have the highest rainy day fund that we have had in years, and he's paying down the pension debt. I mean, he understands what it takes to make a difference. And the other thing that I often say about the governor is that he doesn't look at it from a political perspective. He's a businessman, and that's how he looks at it. As you have seen, he also hires Republicans. It's not like, oh, I have to hire all these Democrats. He hires Republicans because he wants the best people for the job. And he's open and accessible to everybody. So I think he's doing a great job. Would he do it another time? I don't know. I'll have to ask him again.
I will too. How would you rank him historically among past governors?
Well, I think he's doing great. I would rank him up there amongst all of our good governors because of everything that he has been doing. I mean, certainly, you know, comes to mind is obviously Ella Grasso and obviously Bill O'Neill. I mean, but he ranks up there high for the job he has done.
I want to talk a little bit about, you know, one of the issues, and I've spoken with Lieutenant Governor Beisowitz back when she was Secretary of the State over this topic over the years, and other women in politics, trying to get more women involved in politics. And I think the breakdown right now in the legislature is about 38% women right now. And, you know, there's an effort to get more women to go into politics. What would your argument be to a young woman who might be thinking about it, or maybe you want to recruit her to be a candidate?
Oh, I would say that, yes, you should consider it. You learn a great deal about our government, about our state, and about your neighbors, and it really makes a difference when we have more women in government as opposed to just so many men. So I encourage women to certainly get in, and it's easy for me to point out that I was the first woman to become the state party chair.
That's
and
right.
Everybody has been very nice and very helpful along that regard, and I would like to see more women realize that too.
I'll ask you another question, and they asked Chairman Proto as well. Do you think at 81, President Biden is too old to be president?
No, I don't. I mean, because you look at his opponent, Trump, he's only 2 years younger, and people seem to forget that. He's just as old, technically, as Biden. And no, I think he will be fine.
So you think it's okay to be a politician well into your 80s? Because he'll be 86 at the end of next term if he's reelected.
Yes, I think so. I don't think there'd be a problem with that.
Nancy DiNardo, she is the chairwoman of the Connecticut Democratic Party. We thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you.
And best of luck.
Well, thank you very much.
Also this week, riveting and gruesome testimony in the Troconis trial. We will get some legal insight in just a moment, but first, here's Eva Zamaris on what was the most dramatic day of testimony so far.
Bags of trash emptied onto brown sheets of paper for investigators to look through.
My assignment was to check certain trash receptacle areas within the city and seize the trash.
This trash was seized from receptacles at 3 locations in Hartford, along Albany Avenue at the intersections of Garden Street, Blue Hills Avenue, and Green Street, in connection to the disappearance of Jennifer Farber-Dulos on May 24th, 2019.
Is that the area that you responded to?
Yes.
We've learned investigators narrowed in on those areas after surveillance cameras captured who appeared to be her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos, stopping at those locations and disposing bags that night, with his then-girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, along for the ride.
We documented it with photographs first, and then we took the trash contents from that trash can, placed it into our trash bag, and transported it back to Troop H in Hartford.
Connecticut State Police Sergeant Kevin Duggan testified about what they uncovered in the trash as part of Troconis' ongoing trial. That includes zip ties, plastic ponchos, a white t-shirt, bath towel, black gloves, screwdriver, and box cutter, all with blood-like stains.
And you indicated there was a blood-like substance on the blade. Where was that?
It's on the edges of the blade.
The emotion could be felt in the courtroom when a long-sleeve shirt and bra were shown, We want to warn you, you might find these next images difficult to look at.
With respect to the front of the bra, is there a cut going down the middle of it?
There is.
Can you please point to where the shirt is cut?
It's almost right down the center.
State police believe Doulos attacked Farber Doulos at her New Canaan home earlier in the day, ultimately killing her and trying to cover it up. It's alleged Troconis conspired with him, but she's denied any knowledge or involvement from the start.
Michelle told the police multiple times that she was either talking to her family members, her daughter at one point, her mother, and she looks up, she says, "What are we doing here?" They were supposed to be going to Starbucks.
She's pleaded not guilty to the charges and has maintained her innocence, saying she had nothing to do with the disappearance or death of Farber Doulos.
Nothing that was in those bags will be shown to have had anything to do with Michelle Troconis or that she knew what was in any of those bags.
The day wrapped up with investigators testifying about additional surveillance video they obtained of the Ford Raptor that Fotis Doulos and Michelle Troconis were allegedly in the night of May 24th. In Stamford, Eva Zamaris, News 8.
And when we come back, legal analysis from former prosecutor and defense attorney Ryan McGuigan. You're watching This Week in Connecticut. And with us now is former prosecutor and defense attorney Ryan McGuigan, who is a frequent guest on this program to talk about everything from cases to all sorts of issues. But he's here today to talk about the Troconis trial. Ryan, good to see you here.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us what you know about the prosecutor, the defense attorney, and the judge.
The prosecutor I have dealt with for many, many years. She is solid as can be. I've also known Attorney Schoenhorn for many, many years. I actually tried a case against him when I was a prosecutor. And I've known the judge also for, oh goodness, about like 12, 13 years since when he first started in Manchester. And all of them are consummate professionals. You won't see a better legal team for the state nor for the defense. And you have literally the perfect judge for a case like this because the judge is not given to his passions and is quite level-headed and cool. And I think we'll move this case along as fast as it can possibly go, minding the defendant's rights, but also being attentive to the needs of the jury.
This story, the story of Fotis Doulos, Jennifer Doulos, attracted national attention when it first happened in 2019. So there's been a TV movie. It should come as no surprise. I guess this is going to take 6 weeks. Is that normal?
For a murder trial, usually about 3 to 4 weeks. Because of this particular trial, because the fact that there is no body. There are a lot of things that need to be established. It's a conspiracy case, and they're going to have to establish that there was a conspiracy between all three conspirators. So because of that, in the lengthy witness list, you're looking at, I think it's well over 100 people for the state. They will not be calling all those people. The reason why the witness list is so big is just in case they need to call anybody to rebut anything. They don't want to be precluded from calling someone in the future, so that's why the list is so big. But I would expect that at least half of those people will be called to the stand by the state.
I noticed that the Doulos children are on the list. Would you expect them to be called?
I don't know. I don't know what if they're factual witnesses and they're saying my mother was here and my mother was there. But if they're needed, I guess they should be called. But I certainly would think that the state is just putting them on the list just in case they need to be called. But I highly doubt that the state would really need to call them. Nor do I think that they would.
Let's put on your prosecutor hat for a second. How would you argue that Michelle Troconis is guilty?
Well, I would do it much like the prosecutor is doing it now. This prosecutor is very, very good. Her demeanor is good. Her cadence is good. Her delivery is fantastic. And if you're going to have a long, protracted trial, you don't want somebody with a really big personality. You don't want somebody who's tearing up the scenery. And so you would want to prosecute it just like she does, which is cool and straight to the facts, and let the jury do the decision. So I think what she's doing is a fantastic job, and I have nothing but praise for her.
So Michelle Troconis has admitted being in the car with Fotis the night that he was dropping off items in Hartford's North End. How powerful is her admission that she did that and the video of them in this car?
Well, I mean, she admitted what's clearly on the video, so that's not all that powerful, I suppose. It's always good to admit things that or admit to facts that you're going to lose anyways, because if in a trial you are seen as disputatious, suddenly what will happen is with the jury is you may turn them off. They may think that you just object about everything. So admitting things that are going to come in anyways is a good trial tactic, I think. And so admitting that she was there when there's already a video, I mean, it's just sort of admitting the obvious.
And Ryan, put in your defense hat now. What's your argument that Michelle Troconis is not guilty?
Well, it's a conspiracy case. And I think that any of the arguments about, that there's no body, I really don't think that really matters all that much, because if I'm her defense attorney, my point is not that that Jennifer Dulos is not deceased. I would admit that she was. I would admit that Fotis Dulos killed her. I would admit that he's a diabolical person. Because if your point is that he dragged my client into this this conspiracy unwittingly, he would have to be quite a diabolical person. So it would behoove you to say, yes, he's an absolute demon of a human being, and he's Machiavellian and he's sadistic, and look what he did to his wife. And therefore, it's very believable that he would pull one over on me as well. So that's essentially what the theory of the defense should be.
If Troconis was your client and this was your case, would you be putting her on the stand to testify?
That's a very good question. At some point, there's an issue with the language barrier, because there are some videos of her meeting with the police department. And she gives rather conflicting statements. You would have to explain those away, and a good way to do it is the language barrier. And it would be a consideration to put her on and have her only testify in Spanish. Then the jury would only hear her speaking English in that tape, and it's not the best English in the world. The opposite side of that, obviously, the objection is that, well, your ex-boyfriend was of Turkish-Greek origin and you're of Argentine origin. What language did the two of you speak together for so many years? And obviously it's going to be English. But at least that's the argument. And some courtroom observers have pointed out her sisters appear to speak perfect English. Why wouldn't she? I guess is one argument that some could say. That's the argument. However, the jury doesn't hear that, and the jury doesn't see that. And what you would be demonstrating, because this is all show, what you would be demonstrating to the jury is that her English is lacking. At least that's what the demonstration would be. So jurors are told not to take this into consideration, but I'm sure there's a part of them that wants to hear from Michelle Troconis. If she doesn't take the stand, does that hurt her? No. You would be surprised how well juries take jury instructions from a judge. So if the judge tells them you cannot hold this against the defendant, juries listen to those instructions, and the judges are very persuasive. So I don't think that it would hurt her if the jury doesn't hear from her. However, they may come away from watching those tapes with the impression that she has been dissembling with some of her explanations, and because of that, they may doubt her credibility. And if that's the case, then it would behoove her to get on the stand and try to explain some of this stuff to the jury. How powerful
can emotion be as a factor in persuading a jury? For example, let's say the children do testify and they end up in tears up there. How powerful will that be to the jury?
Extremely powerful, obviously, for the most obvious reasons. However, a savvy attorney will be able to say, if you've played this right, yes, your father was a demon. Yes, he killed your mother. Obviously, you're emotional about this. However, he's so demonic and awful that he certainly could have done this type of manipulation to my client. So I don't know if that necessarily helps the state at all. And that's why I would be wary about putting them on the stand.
Ryan McGuigan, we always appreciate your legal insight into this, and we'll be talking with you again during the course of this trial. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. Have a great Sunday.
We have much more on the Draconis trial on WTNH.com and the News 8 app. No phone should be without it. We'll be right back. A few months ago, the town of East Hartford made history when they elected their first mayor of color. You met Mayor Connor Martin on this program back in November, and now the first chief of color has taken over the police force. News 8's Ken Houston was there for the big swearing in.
The East Hartford Police Department's color guard ushers in a new era. Mac Hawkins is being sworn in as the town's new chief of police.
And it is my absolute honor as mayor to appoint Mac Hawkins as the first black police chief East Hartford has ever had, and that is something we should be celebrating.
Since 1991, Chief Hawkins has served as a police officer, rising through the ranks first in Hartford and then in East Hartford. In 2012, he was appointed assistant police chief. Now he's heading up the department and, with his family at his side, receives the oath of office.
You, Mac Hawkins, hereby pledge that you will perform all the duties and meet all the responsibilities of your position as police chief.
Chief Hawkins has served as a police officer for more than 30 years. He says that he's ready to get down to business and shares his plans.
Just to continue to be out in the community with my command staff and with my officers, serving the community with pride and integrity, respecting our community and working. The biggest thing is working with the community.
It's just one of the many reasons why Mayor Martin says he selected the chief for the job.
When I was working with him as chief of staff, he was very instrumental in helping me address resident issues, issues related around traffic violations, major crime, violence. And for me, it showed me that he was really the man that was the most prepared for the job.
The mayor says he's also calling on Chief Hawkins to continue the work started by his predecessor, which is to diversify the department.
And I'd like to see that continue, making sure that we have more people of color and more women on our police force.
Which ultimately reflects the community it serves. In East Hartford, Ken Houston, News 8.
And we invite you to connect with us here at This Week. Send us an email at thisweek@WTNH.com. Also connect with me on social media. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This Week in Connecticut. We'll be right back. We thank you so much for sharing your time with us for This Week in Connecticut. You can catch us every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock on WTNH. We're also on Thursday nights on our sister station, WCTX, at 9 p.m. And stay tuned to WTNH all week long for the very latest from the Draconis trial and Tuesday night for New Hampshire primary results. Up next, the Capitol Report crew with Tom Dunchuk. Have a great day, everybody.